No, I'll talk to you later. Hey, Tony!
Sal, you're back where you belong.
Hey, we're both back. You and me, we did it, huh?
You know it.
We cleaned it up with the Forellis, the Sindacos we sent into the fucking sea. Now I got the Sicilians on the phone wanting peace. We all want peace. But my peace, not their fucking peace. I'm the big man now. No chump from the old country's gonna tell me what to do. I told them to go fuck themselves.
You did. Was that wise?
Hey, I'm the boss now. Me. Now let's go see the mayor about getting my charges dropped.
So as a way of having this Let's Play come full circle, let's have an old friend take us on one last adventure.
Step on it, Tony. If I'm right, the Sicilians will be going after the mayor. We gotta get to him before they do it.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Salvatore, but I really don't think we're going to be getting anywhere before anyone on this thing. I mean, the Fagio is all reliable, and it purrs like a walrus, which I apologize for because it kind of overpowers the dialogue that was going on back there, but it's just not that great of a vehicle, even though we can do that manipulation where you repeatedly tap forward as you're driving this thing around, but I mean, I suppose one thing to clarify during this mission is that it really doesn't matter what vehicle you're using, because even though the mission makes it seem like you're on the clock, in that you have to get to City Hall before the Sicilians do, well, the Sicilians are always going to be scripted to get to City Hall before you do, so you can use whatever vehicle you want to use. You know, maybe you want to use the PCJ or the dirty Manchez there. Well, maybe the Leone Sentinel or the uniquely colored white Bobcat that I neglected to mention during the mission bringing the house down. You know, there are options for you, whatever your preference may be, but either way, when you arrive at City Hall, which we're about to do, we're going to have a bunch of crazed Sicilians trying to shoot us down there, but you know, that's no match for our nice revolver we have here, so we're going to use this thing one last time. Fantastic stuff.
Lousy bastards have taken him already.
So it seems that the Sicilians have run off with Mayor Miles O'Donovan, and who knows what they want to do with him. Maybe it's some kind of sex bondage type of thing. Oh. Yeah, but either way, we have to engage in a chase sequence here, which is actually quite fun, I think, but we need to make sure that Salvatore has his confrontation with the mayor.
There they are! Come on, Tony, this way.
So now we have an on-rails sequence in which we have to fight off Sicilians that are running after us in boats, and the way that we fight them off is by using a minigun, which this thing, it's such a powerhouse of a weapon. It's just fantastic and super fun using it to fight off these Sicilians, which are just flying all around the place. I mean, that's where the challenge comes from, in that there's going to be a lot of Sicilians in these boats trying to kill us, so even though they're really not getting too many shots off of us, it's just that over time, the shots that they do get off onto us add up. So that's something you kind of got to watch out for. You know, make sure that you don't let them hang around for too long there. And of course, beyond the boats, we're going to have a helicopter chase after us as well. So that's going to be something that we have to deal with there. But real quick, I want to point out that fantastic shot back there of the CALLAHAN Bridge. Like, I know that these games aren't visually impressive or anything, and I know that it is raining, so it kind of makes this whole scene a bit more, I guess, negative than positive and bright and uplifting, but still, it's just having that CALLAHAN Bridge shot with the clear sky in the background. I mean, that's what it's all about right here, and I see that the skies are darkening up quite a bit. You know, they're transitioning from male to female, so that's something that's also going on, which I guess kind of represents the situation we find ourselves in. You know, something very epic as this storm is brewing, and then there's lightning in the background. Look at that! Oh man, like I said, you know, these games really aren't that visually impressive compared to Grand Theft Auto 5, for example, but you know, you can always find those small moments there in which something just kind of catches your eye. But anyways, we took care of that helicopter using the minigun, which happened, I guess, a couple seconds ago now, but that's not going to be the last time during this mission that we use the minigun to accomplish such things, so, man, a bit of foreshadowing there, by me this time, you know, no in-game foreshadowing, but Anyways, something I like about this on-rails sequence is that we're passing by a lot of these Portland areas that were fairly significant early on in the game. Like we passed by Vincenzo Chili's place in Atlantic Key, and now we're passing by Portland Harbor. So you have a few of these places, which is great because I like using moments like this to kind of get a bit more sentimental and all that, remembering, our humble beginnings and us being initially exposed to a bunch of ignoramuses, kind of giving us a small taste of the tomfoolery that goes on in Liberty City. So, anyways, we've now arrived at this rock.
How many bastards are on this rock? You shoot one bastard and another one bites you on the ass.
So I think that this is quite an awesome moment here, because in Grand Theft Auto 3 and in this game, you have this rock that has the lighthouse on top of it, and it's always just been there in the background whenever you pass by Salvatore's mansion here in St. Mark's. I mean, you just kind of pass it off as something like that it's just in the background and, it really doesn't have a whole lot of significance. But in this game, I mean, we're having the final mission, our final showdown here with Massimo Tarantula, which, by the way, we should pull out a minigun for our confrontation.
Torini, it figures. Give him up. The mayor is mine. This city is mine.
Salvatore, Sicily never wanted questo schifo di città. But when tribute driver, what could we do? It was nothing personal.
Nothing personal. After what you put me through, I'm gonna tear your fucking heart out. Hey, Mr. Mayor, we just saved you from a bunch of crazed Sicilians.
Yeah, thanks.
And that means...
The city is grateful to you? Ow!
Try again.
that you work for me, right?
Oh yeah, that I work for you.
Good. Now don't call us, we'll call you. Get out of here, prick.
Thank you, Mr. Leone.
Tony! We did it! We run things now, you and me. We're a team, huh? Now I just need you to do one small thing for me. I got some problems that I've been dealing with. Hey, Uncle. How you doing, huh? You look good.
Ah, Salvatore. All we really wanted was clarity.
Yes, Uncle. I appreciate that.
So, we are at peace now. You and the old country.
Of course. Me and all my people.
Good. Very good.
Sneaky little bastard. I wouldn't trust him a fucking inch.
Every dog has his day.
Yeah, but we did it.
Yeah, we cleaned up. You did good, Tony. You did real good. I always knew you was a good kid. You saved my ass a few times, and I appreciate that kind of loyalty.
Thank you.
A good worker? I like that. Respectful. So I got you that $500,000 I promised you.
Half? Ooh, I thought you, said a couple.
I said $1 million. For what? You can put a price on friendship? The kind of friendship you and me have? Shame on you. Come here. You're a good kid, but shame on you.
And with that, we have now completed Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories at 100%. And this is actually my first time ever doing that, so yeah, quite interesting stuff there. But not really, though. I mean, it's just fairly trivial information, but either way, I quite like what went on at the end of the cutscene there. Of course, besides Salvatore and Tony having a make-out brief session. Ooh, yeah, maybe there's things that go on behind the scenes that we're not quite aware of. Ooh, scandalous and all that, but jokes aside, there is one interesting line there, I think, where Salvatore's unnamed uncle says under his breath as he walks away from Salvatore and Tony, and he says, every dog has his day, and it's a bit of foreshadowing there to the events that go on in Grand Theft Auto 3, which is the next game chronologically after this, so in that game, Salvatore does have his day as Claude, under the orders of Azuka Kassen, ends up taking Salvatore out to a fancy restaurant. Things get a bit hot and heavy, and, well, Salvatore ends up dying, so yeah, that's what goes on there. And, I always wondered who has the last laugh there, if the unnamed uncle outlives Salvatore, or if Salvatore ended up outliving the unnamed uncle. I suppose that's another thing we can throw into that pile of things we'll never get answers for, which I suppose that is also fairly trivial, and no one really cares about that. But either way, in the way of opinions about this game as a whole, I like this game. It's not my favorite Grand Theft Auto game in the world, but I do find this game and Vice City Stories to be a bit underrated, which I get that they're not going to be, I guess, exposed to a whole lot of people, because these games initially came out on the PSP, and not that many people had a PSP, so you already have a limited batch of people who have been exposed to this game, so, between those people, I mean, maybe not everybody was a fan of this game. Like, the concept of a mobile Grand Theft Auto game is quite awesome, but even then, you have a few steps back compared to San Andreas, so people might not be that favorable towards this game and Vice City Stories, which I think even then, with a lot of the features not being existent in these Stories games compared to in San Andreas, I think Vice City Stories holds up quite well, but I suppose that's something I'll be talking about a bit later on there, but you get the idea. I just think that these games are a bit underappreciated, because you still have to remember, like, the technical limitations of making a Grand Theft Auto game for the PSP, which I suppose if we compare this to, like, Grand Theft Auto 3, that's where it really has a fighting chance of being victorious compared to Vice City or San Andreas, because, Vice City and San Andreas, I mean, those are the ones that tend to be the ones competing, for people's favorite Grand Theft Auto game. That's where the arguments tend to lie, but either way, in the way of, like, gameplay, it's pretty much like a Grand Theft Auto game, I really don't have too many opinions about that. It plays quite well, I think, but story, I think, is where this game shines, in that they kind of continue having an actual story, like with character development and whatnot. They continue that from San Andreas, because, in 3 and Vice City, there wasn't a whole lot of that character development. There were little sprinkles here and there, but they really didn't hit their stride until San Andreas, so I quite like that was continued here in Liberty City Stories. They didn't cash that, or not cash it, but, phone that aspect of, making a game in, so that's quite nice there. And in the way of, like, radio and stuff, something I really don't touch on a whole lot, I do think that this game has probably the worst radio out of any of the Grand Theft Auto games, the mainline ones anyway. I don't know about any other Grand Theft Auto games, but I'm not a big fan of the radio here. I tend to just kind of lean on Rise FM and MSX 98. Flashback is pretty good too, and of course the LCFR, which sadly I don't get to, like, listen to a whole lot as I play through this, because, while having people talking in the background is kind of distracting when I'm trying to speak and say whatever dirty things I want to say, which, I love the Electron Zone and Chatterbox, fantastic stuff. Nurse Bob is fantastic too. So there are good moments, in the radio, but overall I just don't find it all that great compared to past Grand Theft Autos. I suppose a part of that is that you know, you have some pretty big names and big artists that appear, like in Vice City and San Andreas, and Grand Theft Auto 3 just kind of has that whole nostalgia factor going for it. But you know, even then, I also want to mention Lips 106 in this game is not half bad either. But it's just like, you know, Head Radio, Double Clef FM, it's not for me. But anyways, so that completes that. Shoutouts to the worst credit sequence in the world. I mean, that was just terrible stuff, because the way that the credit sequence works is that there's not like a set path in the way in which things get shown off. The camera just kind of jumps from random driver to random driver, and that's your credit sequence as the text scrolls in front of it. So I really just am not a fan of that, because I got caught in like this endless loop on that stretch of road that leads to the ferry port in Portland. So that was just, oh man, I was face palming there and cringing quite heavily. So anyways, that's the credit sequence. But your reward for beating this game is that you unlock the King outfit, which is a reference to Elvis Presley, you know, the king there of rock and roll. Fantastic stuff. And your reward for getting 100% in this game is that you'll have this tank spawn in Fort Staunton. So that is awesome stuff, and we're going to play around with this thing a little bit as I wrap up the things I want to say about this Let's Play and all that, because I want to give a few thanks to some people, and then a huge thanks to a lot of people. But I'll start with specifics first. You know, the first person I want to mention is a speedrunner who owns the world record for the any percent category in this game, at least at the moment, because you know how speedrunning works. You know, a lot of people swap hands for world records quite often, but in the way of this game's any percent category, I use the VOD of that quite often to, I guess, use as a reference to kind of see how to complete certain missions very quickly and all that, because of course, I mean, you know, you can just play through the game normally, but you know, I like showing off this game being done, or these games being done quite quickly. So this person's name is Redloff, and I've never contacted them before or anything like that. You know, I've never communicated with this person before, but you know, I just want to give credit where credit is due. Like with Grand Theft Auto 3, you know, I used Adam AK's speedruns as references for that game. With Vice City, I used KZ Fru and his speedruns, and then with San Andreas, I used Ultimate Omega's speedruns. So Redloff is the speedrunner of choice for this particular game here. So yeah, that is that. And the other person who I wanted to mention is none other than the legendary Al Malloy, not only for being a very supportive and good friend, but also because he allowed me to use some of his footage during my hidden package part, which I think is one of the follies of this series. Some things weren't planned out as well as they could have been. You know, I made a few mistakes here and there, and sometimes in the way of commentary, you know, I forgot to mention a few things about certain special things going on in missions and all that, so it's a bit of a shame there, but thankfully Al was there to save me for that particular moment. So fantastic stuff. And of course, I want to give a huge thank you to all of the people who watch these videos and like these videos, or subscribe because of these videos and all that. I mean, people leaving comments, the regulars, of course. I mean, you know, there's a lot of good things going on here. And even the people who, like, don't leave comments but just watch the videos regularly, I mean, that is completely fine too. Lots of good things going on, so I'm very happy about all that. I think it's very, very awesome, which, you know, tends to be what I say in situations like this. You know, awesome, 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 and all that. You know, I need to read more, I think. You know, and that would help finding other words to say. But anyways, though, that wraps up this part. And I hope you all enjoyed these videos even more than I've enjoyed making them. And until my next video, I will see you next time.